We're live.
Hello. Oh gosh, usually we get like a little countdown, so I was making an exceptionally silly face. Which I think you should always
No
do. If
need.
you've got any kind of countdown to a serious thing, make silly faces right up until the last second. So fabulous. For folks who joined us yesterday and Monday, you know the deal. We're taking our first free CodeCamp project from the Web Development Certification track. And we're adding a JavaScript backend and we're adding a database. And for learners who haven't used JavaScript before, all of this is going to look mysterious and terrifying. And for folks who haven't used the terminal before, but I promise I'm going to go ahead and later on this week, I'll either write up a tutorial or I'll do a stream myself that shows how to do all of this, except for we'll just copy and paste Laurent's code if that's okay by you.
That's good by me.
So if folks wanted to follow along, I will share the link to where we're working. And this is our GitHub repo. So everything's going to get sort of pushed in real time, which is very low-key exciting. So last time we wrote a little bit of JavaScript. And if I recall correctly, we had gotten sort of this hello world import. And it took some JSON.
Yes.
And I think what we wanted to do now was have it handle the JSON from our form instead of somebody's name and say hello. So right now, let's talk through this. It's a const, so like a variable that never changes.
Right, that was the code that was generated automatically by Netlify through the wizard. It is fine. It is fine. Someone's asking me for the stream link, so I need to send that.
It's all chill.
Yeah,
I will chat through this while you share that. So and again, folks who haven't written JavaScript before, we don't expect you to be able to do this. But so this is just previewing what we're going to learn in the JavaScript bootcamp. So a constant's like a variable, and we'll learn about CSS variables in 2 weeks. So this will come up again. And our const is called a handler. Okay. And this is going to asynchronously handle an event as its parameters. And then when the event happens, it's going to try to do this thing. Yeah. So it's going to try and return. It's going to try and
this
take
thing
another
is,
const.
Yeah.
Oh.
Another const?
Another const right here in const subject.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, so there's a const that's a function, and there's a const that's an object.
Yeah.
Right.
So this object is going to be the event query string parameter's name. So it's always going to say world. And here it's going to ask for your name and then say, hello, your name, or really whatever you give it right here. Oh, chill.
Right.
So how
always
do we
going to ask for your name, unless you have a query parameter that says your name. What is a query parameter?
Is it something? So query sounds like a question, and parameter sounds like the values we feed in. Like when we have a parameter for HTML or CSS, they're the values. We've got values and parameters. Is it going to be something similar in JavaScript?
In JavaScript?
Are we in JavaScript?
We are in
JavaScript.
JavaScript.
This is our Netlify application again. And this is what our form looks like in the real world.
No, that's not the right.
Sorry, that's okay.
Not the right one.
So everything is meditatively fine.
Yesterday, I think. Right.
Oh, so
you don't see very well because I cannot really zoom on this. But this is the question mark. Like this is the query parameter that we want. This is the query URL. And I know you don't see it very well, but if I had a question mark, and what was the name of the query parameter?
So it was Laurent before.
Name.
In our code. Subject name? Oh, it was name.
Yes. So there it is. It works. It does something. It tells me my name, which is cool. But you know what is better? What's better is instead of going straight up to the URL, we're gonna call this thing, this function, this backend code from the JavaScript code that we wrote yesterday.
Okay.
Not the. So that's the tricky bit, right? There's some JavaScript code that's been generated yesterday, last stream. You're right, Leonard. It's not yesterday for everybody. It's on the previous stream. There's two JavaScript side of things. There's the one that's been generated by Netlify, which we just saw, and there's the one that I started with that was showing up the message.
Yeah.
And so we're going to change that code to call this code. It's weird. Let's do it. You'll understand better.
Let's do it. And for folks who aren't comfortable with JavaScript yet, just getting used to const. Const is like a variable that doesn't change. A parameter. Just sort of useful concepts to start to noodle around. I always like to say this is just programming and it can't hurt you. But that's a lie, isn't it? It can't hurt learners yet. Later on, when you work with it every day, it can hurt you, mostly spiritually. So we're making another const. And a const is named response. Oh, and it's going to go get something, I bet. Yeah, okay. So even looking at the human language in this.
Fetch. What are we fetching? We are fetching, we're getting the exact same thing that we were seeing here.
Okay.
So, oops. We are going to fetch this URL and then we're going to give it some options. When you do a request, so basically when something is asking for a URL on the server, you can do different kind of stuff. You can do what we call get, which is what we're doing here, which is what your browser always do when you enter in your browser, and you can do others.
And
usually
we've talked
others
about
are dedicated to not displaying or retrieving something. A little bit. I think we did.
So this, a lot of these things look mysterious, but this is just saying, hey, what I want this code to do is go get something. And here with JSON.
And I want that something to be JSON.
Oh, learner makes a fabulous point after my own heart to say, oh, yeah, a get is the same HTTP concept we learned, that this is what my browser is able to do. Perfect, incomparable, impeccably correct, durably correct.
How do we make sure that it works? Well, each time you send a request to a server, the server answers with something. And you might have, it's in the pop culture now, I think 404, people understand what 404 is because we all went to that website that said, this page doesn't exist and said error 404. And everybody's laughing because when they go to a hotel, they have the room number 404 and they cannot find it. This is HTTP status code, and status code are a way for the server to tell you what happened when you fetched get something.
I know we're in a hurry, but can we talk about these as a concept just really fast? I'm going to drop the link in here because I think status codes are super hecking important. Also, there's a couple of little nerdy Easter eggs in there, and I kind of want to talk about those very briefly. So status codes are, again, when you go to a server, it's going to tell, even if it has the content, even if it has your web page and everything works okay, it's still going to send a little code with that. And any code that's in the 200 range is like yeah, that's cool. Here's what you asked for. Oh gosh, what are the 300s? 300s are if you need redirection. So, hey, I see what you want, but it's not here. 400s are something has gone heckin' wrong on the client side. Something's wrong and it's your fault, the server is saying. And the 500s are saying, hey, something's wrong and it's the server's fault. The 100s
Absolutely.
you probably won't see.
And there's no 600s.
Not yet.
So all this code is, well, there's two things. This code is the one that I've selected, is the code that is doing the request. It's getting something there, and it's assigning the answer to a variable, a const called response. And response has the status code and a bunch of other things, like if the answer doesn't just send 200 or 404 or 500, it sends other stuff. And it can send text too. And so that's what we do. We are logging the text that is going to be sent by the function. Now, I need to check out if my function is actually sending something. I mean, yes, it is. That's what we did. We saw the message hello world or hello your name. So we know it's sending something. So now console.log means we should see that thing happening when we click on submit instead of having to go and visit that URL. So let's do that. Let's start a server if it's not started.
And while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit more about the console. I like to think of the console as like a private chat, like an ongoing DM between you and your program, you and your computer. So when you say console log, I say, hey, I want you to send me a message when this works, or sometimes when this breaks. Console log is one of the best things you can play with, especially as a new developer. Hello, Laurent. And here we are back in the terminal, which is scary but can't hurt us.
So I'm starting my, yes.
So you're starting that Netlify server again.
Starting our development server again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's terrifyingly slow, but it's going to work.
That's exactly what you said about me yesterday, though. So all fair all around.
Did I?
No, probably just in your heart. I am terribly slow and still work.
Why is it so slow? That's terrible. This is bad.
So this gives us an excuse to talk a little bit more about status codes, because there's there's a political status code and there's a joke status code. Do you know about these?
Is there?
Yeah. Oh. I'm not trying to nerd snipe you, but what are you doing with your joy? So have you ever read Fahrenheit 451? It's a really, really fantastic novel. And if I'm not mistaken, it's Kurt Vonnegut, isn't it? But it's the status code you get when material is censored. It's unavailable for legal reasons. And I think that's a really cool one. There's also,
it's a good one, yes.
Lerner points out, is it 418? Oh gosh, cesium, it's Ray Bradbury, isn't it? Oh, I just watched that movie I just watched an art movie about somebody who is a biographer to the first person I said. So I've managed to wiggle them in my head.
So I started my development server. I am on localhost 88888, which is the address of my local server. I have my web console open. I clicked on the form. I filled the form. I've clicked on submit, and you see two new lines that we did not have before. The first one is XHR get something.
So that's us doing the get thing we asked for.
Exactly, we are doing that web request. And the second line is a console log saying message hello Laurent, which is what we had when we did that get function manually in our browser. So that means that from that page, when we do submit, we can call some backend code.
Okay, and that's the JavaScript we wrote.
Yes. So now I'm not going to say our JavaScript is complete, but it's It's good. It's doing things.
She's not perfect, but she works.
Absolutely. It's just getting things, but you see, we need to create something. And when you
Okay.
want to create something, it's a different method, it's a different verb. It's not get, it's
Is it
something called post.
post? Hey, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so get feels really
So we're going
easy
to
because
post some code.
so get to get post feels a lot like a git commit or a push. Get posts get post give.
So what are we posting?
What are we posting? Are we posting the JavaScript object we created when we made the form?
Yes.
Oh, I was
How
very
does
not
it
confident
work?
about that.
So we had a status, we had a method, we had a header, and now we want to send something. And you can send something in more header, or you can use the body. The body is like the content of the request we are sending. And that content is the JSON object that we were using and we were playing with yesterday. So all I have to do is, well, not all, there's a couple of things we need
All.
to do. We could just say, send this, but this is a JSON object. It's a code object. It's not available as text. It's not available as a string. And the problem
So
is,
it's
an HTTP request is very dumb. That we just want text, so we need to transform that into text.
relatable. So I might say that HTTP request is really fussy. So it says, hey, there's some kinds of things I'll tolerate and some kinds of things I don't want to deal with. And what we're doing, so this is a really interesting sort of built-in feature of JavaScript. You've said JSON dot stringify. Oh, we've got a really good question from Cesium when we get a little heartbreak of a break. So JSON.stringify is saying, hey, take this JSON object, and I want you to take the characters in it and turn it into a string, turn it into a piece of text we can handle. And we've got a really exciting question from Cesium. Do you mind if I distract you with it?
Go ahead.
So, oh, you know what? We already used a method post in the HTML. Is there a reason we're using this again in the JavaScript? Are they doing different things? Or maybe does the JavaScript just need to be told separately?
Was it in JavaScript or was it in HTML? Yeah, it was in HTML, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We've already specified method post in the HTML, and now we're using post in JavaScript. Yeah. Are these
Did
doing
we?
different things? Did we?
So yes, these are different things, but I cannot find that method equals post.
Oh, so it's form method equals post. And that might have been somewhere else in our
Which,
JavaScript, huh? Y'all are paying
mm,
way, way more attention than I do. Oh, cool. Cesium says don't worry about it. They're thinking about a different thing. It's
it's a
fine.
different thing. It works. It probably works. It's when you want to do instead of. Well, let's go a little bit in detail. You can post a form when you click on a button, and everything can be done with HTML without all the JavaScript bits I'm doing. It works, but it's not as controllable as what we're doing here. And actually, the content type will be different. It wouldn't be application/JSON because it wouldn't be all the stuff that we did. It would be sending an HTML form directly. These things works, but this is not how we want to do it today because we want to have more control over the stuff that we do.
Okay.
There
So
is
it is
probably
possible.
in Netlify's wizard something that does that. Sorry, it is
We
possible.
should specify that Wizard is a type of digital assistant, that Netlify probably doesn't have an actual wizard on staff. Oh, no. Oh, I guess he's not allowed to talk about the wizard. What? Laurent, do you mind if I bring you back, or are you hiding from the wizard? Oh, I see. Everything's fine. Oh, hello again.
Yes, I don't know what happened, but I'm back. Hey, everybody, I'm
Everything's
back.
fine. I noticed that little segue when I was like, "Oh, there's probably not a real wizard." You were like, "Oh, for no reason, I'm gone."
I
Um,
disappeared. I think the wizard get mad.
wizard related.
Um,
So,
so what do we want to do next? We have a post. Now we need to make sure that our hello world function knows what to do with that post. Because right now it doesn't. Right now it does some different things. Because I removed the
what's it
query
doing right
parameters.
now?
Right now the netlify function is taking our query parameters, which was the question mark name equals something, and sending it back to us. It's called an echo server, and you will find some example of echo server. An echo server is just like you say something and they say it back to you. So I give my
Okay.
name, they send my name back to you, and those are examples you will often find into learning material.
Yeah. And that sounds like you don't even have to get the console involved. You just say, "Hey," and it says "hey" back is really, really reassuring that that just goes ahead and works right away. Or it doesn't when it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't exactly. Um, so let's make sure that we can use what was sent to us. It's a post and there's a body. So how do we get that data? How do we get that body? We still have our events, and our events has servant field, and there's the field blah 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 request parameters, and there's the field body, which is exactly what we need. Now we know that this is supposed to be text, but we know that we want this as JSON. So we can use the parse method, which
Okay.
is sort of the opposite of the stringify method we just used.
So before we
So there we
used
go. We should
JSON.stringify to
have
turn.
our thing.
So last time we turned it into a string, and here we're going to turn a string into JSON. Oh, oh. You might want to
Exactly.
move us back. Oh, I can move us back
And
over
we're
to the
going to
side so we
test
can see
that
what's going
JSON
on.
by,
Because here we could see these
oh
responses
yeah,
coming in, and that's super
yeah.
exciting.
We don't need that. Blah, blah, blah. Let's clean that up a bit. So yes, we have our answer. We are transforming our answer into JSON. And to make sure this is actually JSON, you can see here I'm using JSON.field, which is the name. So it should, instead of saying hello world or hello Laurent, it should still say hello, whatever is put into the form.
Okay.
That's
Learner points out,
what
helping me, that
should happen.
JSON.stringify turns a JSON object into a JSON
So
string,
let's
and
let's try that.
parse makes a JSON string into a JSON object. Cool.
Yes.
We're getting that
So
same
event
error
refers
that
to the thing we
says,
sent with post. Absolutely.
yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
we're still
Sorry.
getting that no cute icon found, but that's not going to hurt us. That's not an error that's super bad. Age 99.
And
Oh,
it says, hello, you glorious, lovely people. So what that
okay.
means
So we
is,
are getting that back.
yes, we can echo our JSON object. So we are sending the right thing to the server. But now we want to store that thing into that database we set up on the previous stream. So let's do that.
Let's go get a database. Oh, I'm so
So even
smart.
refers to the thing we sent with post. That's a good question.
Oh,
And the answer is yes. The event object from the netlify function is whatever triggered that netlify function. And right now, what triggers the netlify function is a get or a post. It's a request.
okay.
And next question is, so you could do data.name in JS after a JSON parse? Yes, absolutely. This is exactly what we did. here.
Everything is meditatively fine.
All right, we have some time. We can do some stupid things.
Honestly,
How do
any kind
we
of weird
how do
experimenting
we
is
do
very
this?
fun.
How do we connect to a database?
How do we? So I think,
That's why
do we need
coding
to
is
give it
so
our
cool. We
password?
can do so many different things.
Oh no, that's scary
Well,
though. I
that's the
don't want
thing,
to do
right? We
many.
need to find. Is it okay? Let's do it a bit differently and hope someone's gonna hold my hand while I'm doing this.
Oh,
I'm logging again to Couchbase Capella, which is the account we created to have a
cloud.couchbase.com.
database. Up.
It's a long password.
Here we go. It's a long, automatically generated password. And you can
And
see
I
it's the
bet you
tab
didn't
called
reuse it
Connect.
anywhere.
And the good thing
Okay.
about the tab called Connect that gives you everything, gives us anything we want to connect. It gives us the connection string, which is the address of the database on the internet. It asks us to select our credentials, so I'm selecting my existing credential. It's asking my favorite language. I'm coding in
Oh,
Node right now, so Node is my favorite
Dutch.
language today,
Node.
just today.
And Node is a kind of JavaScript that is specifically made for the back end. Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
and Learn
it's
is way ahead of us and saying, hey, I bet we're going to need a connection URL and credentials and maybe a driver.
exactly that's exactly what I mean. We need all of those.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry, which it also says up here now that you've caught up.
so I'm gonna ask for the full example. The full example says the driver. The driver is the thing that you use to connect to your database. So let's get that driver going. Now, how do we? How does it work? How do we install? Available magically, right? You need to install the thing.
Magically. Is it
Am I still
magically?
online? I don't know. I
I mean, I can see you,
not
so I
magically.
rather hope.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do npm install Couchbase, and I'm going to specify the version for the 2.4 for a very specific reason because very recently, last week, we released version
Oh,
4.2.5. Version 4.2.5 is not compatible with Netlify anymore, which is a pain. Version 4.2.6 should be.
I'm going to stop
So there
you.
we have.
I'm going to make your day more difficult. Versions? What do you mean versions? What's a version?
Right. What is the good analogy for a version?
Oh, oh
I don't
no. I
know.
usually have my phone with me when I
Um,
talk about versions.
each time you change the software that somebody else is using, offense, go ahead.
So usually I hold up my phone because I've got a very old iPhone because I'm a very fussy old lady, and say, oh, you know what? They kept making new versions of iPhones. They started out with just an iPhone back in 2007. And then I had 2 and 3, and now I think they've got, like, I don't know, 19? And software does the same thing, except sometimes it's not iPhone 10 to iPhone 11. They have these dots where say, "Hey, we haven't completely redone the whole thing, but we've got some decent sized changes in here." So got maybe a 5.3, or here we've got a 4.2.4, which means we're on the fourth big major change. We're on the second medium-sized change, and then there've been, like, 4 little baby changes. I think saying 4 little baby is probably not very, very complimentary for a robust, uh, piece of software like databases. Oh gosh, Laurent, can you still hear us? So it looks like what's going on down here is, so we've used NPM. NPM is a package manager. And you might remember with Naya that we went and got Homebrew, which is package manager for Mac. And here NPM is just sort of a package manager for any type of computer I can think of. Let me go get a link to what NPM is. And this is another little stressful one because you've got to get a package manager to get the other things to do development. So it can be really a little off-putting sometimes, huh?
Am I back? It seems like
You are.
I'm back, but my terminal is not back.
Oh gosh, that sounds very stressful. It looks like it might be back. It says completed in 20. Oh, it says completed in 26 and doesn't say seconds.
Okay, anyway. Oh, God. Doesn't seem to
Everything's
be.
fine.
I think my VS Code is mad at me for some reason. Because when I'm showing my browsers, everything seems to be better, which is weird.
Yeah.
I might try to restart that VS Code
That's all
thing
chill.
because it's acting up. Anyway, we have our full code sample. We did try to install Couchbase, connected the database, and what the tutorial is telling us is, well, you have a connection string, you have username and password, you have a bucket name, you have a scope name.
Wait, what's a
You have a
bucket?
collection name, you have all those things.
What's a collection? What's a scope?
If you remember, we set up a bucket called survey form. It has default scope, and we created default collection.
Okay. So I'm actually not great about the lingo myself. Let's grab.
Everything is terrible. We are killing VS Code, and we are going.
So one
Hello.
thing. Hello. I can still hear you just fine, but don't worry if it stuff's cutting out for you.
Yes, you can see all those things. Good. So Visual Studio Code. Let's try to start that again. Hopefully, it will be nicer with me.
And the one thing I'd really like to model for learners is, and this is the hardest thing to learn. Ha ha ha, Laurent is gone. I'm in charge now. It's my time. So, oh, hello, welcome back. One thing that I really want to model for learners that actually Laurent is doing a fantastic job at is the hardest skill, I think, in web development, in any kind of development.
I'm back, or for how long.
You're back.
But I'm back.
You're back. Everything's fine. So, one thing that Laurent is modeling incredibly well is not freaking out when things go wrong. So, whenever you're developing, stuff is going to go wrong. Stuff is going to break. And even streaming isn't even really programming. It's just having to literally talk to computers. But stuff is going to go wrong. And I see a lot of early stage developers who freak out. They say,
it's not like we have a choice, right? Things go wrong.
Oh. Laurent, we can see you and hear you, but you sound a little bit like a very exciting robot. I think that we're unlikely to get this connection back, which that's okay. It happens. So, just very quickly, while we're waiting to see if we get this back, I want to grab this glossary. Let me present. Let me see if I can share my screen. Where are we? Where am I? I definitely don't want to share my entire screen. Select a window or screen. Yep, okay. We're going to have Laurent exit for just a second and come back. And if it doesn't work, that's also super chill. Worst case scenario is we'll go ahead and we'll just do a little bit of a longer session Monday. As long as y'all are chill, I'm chill. So, one thing I would like to share is an opportunity to take a look at docs. So, select window. Definitely don't want to show you my emails. That's not very helpful. Let's see if it just wants a webs. The difficulty I'm having now, because everybody likes to have different problems with technology, is that StreamYard, the software we use to stream, doesn't love my favorite browser. It doesn't always work. I bet y'all can guess my favorite browser. But it doesn't always work super well with it. Learner points out exactly the point I was going to make, but much more graciously. Documentation is a programmer's reliable virtual friend. And sometimes when you ask a question about programming online, you'll get people who are kind of sound like jerks, where they say, read the docs. And what makes it worse is they're usually right, but they're right in a way that's like really annoying and we don't love it. So we saw some terms. Oh, I'll banish you again. We saw some terms that we haven't seen before. So I saw bucket, I saw scope, and I saw collection. And this is our first time using a database. So I want to check out what those mean to see if we can feel more comfortable with them. So I'm going to Command F and I'm going to search for a bucket. Oh, bucket. Okay. So we're going to read this, and I bet bucket is going to be something that, why is this not showing us the bucket? That's terribly frustrating. Let's try this again. Everything's fine. Let's grab a different browser. Oh, I was sharing the wrong browser. That sounds very much like me. There we go. Now everything's easy. So now we've searched for bucket because it was a brand new word we've never seen before. And this is going to tell us what a bucket means, but it's kind of using programmer language. So let's break it down and see if we can understand it and not freak out while we do it. Okay. A bucket is a logical, user-named entity that groups items, allowing them to be accessed, indexed, replicated, and access controlled. There are 3 types. Couchbase, and that keeps data on both the memory and on a disk. Ephemeral, which means it just keeps the data in your memory. And memcached. And we don't even have to read this whole thing because it says it was deprecated in 7.0. Deprecated means it's been thrown away. It means you can still use it if you've been using it, but it means you probably shouldn't use it brand new. To give you an example of other stuff that's been deprecated, my 2 of my 3 cats are named out of deprecated HTML tags or elements. So things that used to be in HTML that we don't really use anymore. So let's break down this so I'm just going to ignore this altogether. It told me right at the beginning, it's deprecated. I don't care. So we're going to break down this programming language into logical language. And we're going to do it in human language in a laid back way. Oh, hello. How are you feeling about your connection?
Is it working? Can you hear me?
You
Not so
sound
great. It's not about my
fabulous. You
connection.
sound
It's more
brilliant.
I'm very angry about my Windows machine and my 16 gig of RAM, if I'm honest. It's probably where the problem is. Anyway.
So I was just talking through super fast. We saw some terms we didn't know. So I was thinking we'd take a look. So a logical, what does that mean? A bucket is logical. So it means it contains logic. It makes decisions.
It's smart. No, it's logical as in a not like a virtual in a way. It has a logical sense. Um, it holds
I'm looking
logic.
suspicious at you. Is that not the first thing I said? Oh, so you can put logic in it. You can tell it where you'd like it to put stuff.
No. So there's because it's the. I don't know if I'm explaining
Sorry,
that.
explaining concepts in beginner-friendly ways is the hardest thing ever, and I
Yeah,
love it.
it's a thing that does stuff. So the
That's
way
going
you
to be
would
your
speak,
definition of entity as well, though, isn't it?
absolutely, and collection and scope. When you store things, you have you have an entity that store things, right? And an entity can be an actual thing, so it could be a bucket, like an actual hardware bucket, or it could be the concept of a bucket. And it's logical in the sense of it's more of a concept than an actual thing. It is a conceptual way of separating things.
It's an
We used
imaginary
to have,
bucket.
yes,
I can put data in, and then there's 3 different types of conceptual buckets. One that saves it on disk and memory. One that only saves it to memory, which means you're probably going to throw it away. And then this deprecated one we don't have to care about.
which one is it? Oh yeah. I mean, it's still cool. It's for history nerds, and I am an history nerd, somewhat. It comes from our mem-based heritage. Fujio yesterday told us on the last stream that Couchbase came from mem-base, which was the distributed version of a product called memcached. And memcached is it's a different beast, but it's kind of like Redis. If people have heard about Redis,
They have
memcached was
not
the
heard
same
about Redis.
thing. It is a key value in memory thing that do stuff.
Okay.
Which is going to be my escape for everything. Well, we have 15 minutes now. Do you want to go back to code?
Yeah, shall we? Shall I take this away?
Yeah.
Let's do a little tiny bit of code, and then we'll have a very, very laid back evening, hopefully, with all of your computers work better now that you're off the clock.
Alors,
I sometimes forget you're very French.
We were in this file, and I was trying to install the thing that didn't work, but because yes, I needed to install this, and we were here as well. We had our code that we could copy and paste because it's been graciously given to us by the Couchbase. And we were saying that in the first stream we set up a bucket, and the bucket has a default scope and a default collection, which is the different granularity of our storage units. And so this is what we're going to do. I'm copy and pasting, reorganizing this because you should not copy and paste what anybody's sending you. It's could be prone to
definitely
errors.
Don't copy paste code off the internet
So
unless Laurent says it's okay.
Yeah. Or Stack Overflow, who knows? And it's all the bits and pieces I need to connect to my Couchbase cluster, except this bit. And because I'm a very, very, very crazy person,
you're going to show us your password.
I'm going to give you my password.
I'm not your boss, and I'm not your mother, but
I think it's this. It might not work. Yeah, I know. I'm going to push this to GitHub. We are only going to use this locally with our Netlify development server. Okay?
The one thing that is really exciting and scary is a lot of folks do wind up committing their passwords to GitHub. It's one of those accidents that seems very silly, but really that's maybe one of the bigger, scarier accidents you can make.
It happens. Change
Yeah.
your password if that happens. Do not consider it safe. Like, there is a way to rewrite things. I would consider things lost instead of trying to rewrite them. Once it's public,
And
when
here where it
once
says
the information has been made
crypto,
public on the internet, oh yeah, and it
you've
doesn't
just
work.
gotta
It's gonna fail.
start over. So here when it says crypto, folks are always like, "Oh, crypto." And I'm careful to say here we mean crypto like cryptography, crypto like codes, crypto like math, not like imaginary money.
And so if I'm using crypto, I need to actually import crypto because that's better. Crypto is the cryptography module that's being made available thanks to the platform that we're using, which is Node.js. And crypto is also available on the browser, on most modern browser. And what crypto is gonna help me do is generate a random UID. A UID is a unique something identifier, universal unique identifier. Is it
Oh,
something like that?
I mean,
It's
it's
something
both
that's
universal
big
and
enough so
unique.
that it doesn't.
Bonk.
Yes, there's to
Bonk
use.
being a technical term. And while you're writing this, we're going to have about 10, 15 more minutes. So if folks do have questions, say, "Oh, I've been wondering about this," go ahead and chuck them into the chat. We'll save them and we'll come to them one by one meditatively in an extremely laid back way. If you've got questions later on, the best way to bother Laurent? I mean, bother isn't like get his attention, not.
I'm
I don't think
hardly botherable.
I'm just copying the Couchbase Discord link because we do have a Discord for our learners. Bum, bum, bum. So I just did a little song. But if folks want to join the Couchbase Discord, it's just right here. And if you want to tease Laurent about his internet connection or ask any questions about how to get a database connected, that's probably the easiest way to get fantastic, fast, expert level advice. Fortunately, there's a ton of other database folks in there, so I bet somebody will usually get to a question before Laurent.
So by server I started, I have some code in my function that is supposed to connect to my database and do things, which is the bit that you see here, await collection insert, crypto, blah, blah. We're going to talk more about this, but I want to try that first. I want to make sure I didn't make any silly mistake. So I'm going to open that thing again. I'm going to reload the page. Ooh, require is not defined. What have I done?
It sounds
I
like
did
maybe you haven't
something
defined a
very
query.
idiotic. No, it sounds like I've
It's
copy-pasted some
just
code at the wrong
silly
place,
and
which is
easy.
why you should not copy-paste things.
It is all
Anyway,
meditatively
this is
fine.
fixed now. So don't copy-paste things blindly like I did. Everything is better. Laurent, I am 18, obviously, and I would recommend that thing. And I'm going to click on submit, and I'm going to hope something works. And, oh, God, no, it did not. We have an error.
Oh, but it's
What
a
is that
new error.
What happened?
Oh, that's one of those status codes we were talking about. That's pretty exciting.
You remember,
I
we
mean,
have the
less
404 for
exciting.
the thing that doesn't exist.
Yeah, Learner points out
Yes.
that's that 500 HTTP code we talked about. And remember, we talked about 100s you won't see, 200s is everything's fine, 300s is a redirect, 400 is a client issue, you screw up, and this is a 500. So this means there's a problem with the server.
And what that means is I've messed up. So the error is a collection is not defined. And you know what? You know what happened? What happened is I copy-pasted some code. That was a terrible thing to do because I only
I'm
copy-pasted
gonna,
like half the thing I was supposed to paste. This is bad.
but no, it's just fine. Making a little tiny mistake doesn't hurt anybody.
No, it's fine. So I'm going to copy-paste more code. Oh, God, so much code. All right. What is that thing? What is happening?
Where is that thing?
Good
What is
question.
happening?
Let's start by this bit. This is the important thing. This is the thing that connects to the actual database. It takes a connection string, which is the address of our server. It takes a username and a password, which is what I have here. And it takes a configuration profile. It's just something that's built in. You don't really have to bother about it right now. The goal of that thing is to make sure that if you have a flaky internet connection, like some people here, it works fine.
Yeah.
Some people are me. And then from a cluster, I can open a bucket. And I have a bucket name, so I'm going to put in my bucket name. And you can see it says default and default. So basically, if I ask the default collection from my bucket, it should work fine. And so now that I have a collection, I can do insert, my random UUID, my random identifier, and my actual data. And so it should work, which is what every person programming said ever, all the time. So
And the
let's
thing
try
is,
that.
if it doesn't, it won't hurt us. Oh, is the error?
No.
Cassium says, is there a space after the word default? Is that what's getting us?
Oh, which default was that? So just wait a minute. I have a 200 now, so it works. We fixed it.
Okay, wait. So it works. We're never going to think about why it didn't work. So that's okay.
And let's verify that the thing actually worked. And then I'll take all those questions. I'm going back to my database because apparently it works. So if I go under data tools, I have my bucket that's called survey form, the default scope, the default collection that says I have one document. And if I click on that thing,
so that means like one little bit of data.
Yes.
Oh, it worked. It worked. It worked.
So look, we did everything.
Fine.
Yes.
Okay. And don't forget that I'm going to be either writing a tutorial or do a stream myself. And I'll do this exact same thing, maybe with you. Oh, do you know what? This works. We're done. This works.
No, yeah, we
so
can,
on Monday,
I quit.
Well, I was going to say on Monday, can we reverse this? On Monday, can I try and get this set up? And can I do this? But can I do this just copying and pasting your JavaScript code? So just for learners who haven't used JavaScript before, that we say, hey, you don't need to understand the JavaScript code. Let's talk through the Netlify CID setup. And let's talk through the terminal things we're doing. And let's talk through connecting to this database. And let's just not worry about the JavaScript for now. So can we do this again? But I'll drive and I won't do any of the hard parts.
We can definitely do that.
Stunning. So looking at this, it looks like we don't have any big bad questions. And instead, I will joyously, not too joyously, because this means I won't get to chat to you today, I will say goodbye. Oh, wait, we have to do one thing before we can say goodbye. Can you save it and push it to Git?
It is very true. Okay, so this is good. No, we can't. Not now.
Oh, we can't. The password's in it. You gotta take out that password.
Yes. Because that'd be terrible, right? I can't really use that password. So I'm going to show one more little trick about configuration. Did we talk about environment variable yesterday?
I don't think we did.
Okay, so in environment variable are a way to configure application, configure processes that run on your system, on your operating system, and it's a consistent way of configuring them. It means that environment variable is a way to configure your application. It works on Windows, it works on Mac, it works on Linux, it works on anything. It's a universal way of configuring things. And so that is what is advised when you want to configure something. You use environment variable, and there is something in the node system that is called
Oh,
process, which is an object that gives you access to another object called env. And env can hold
amph.
um, the environment variable. So, for instance, my cache-based password, and because sometimes the environment variable is not set up, you can have a default. If the environment cache-based password doesn't exist, the environment variable cache-based password doesn't exist, then the default will be password, which feels less personal than if it was my own password, right?
Yeah.
So now that I have that, there's a couple of things I can do. I can actually set up my environment variable.
Oh.
And so what this is doing is, in my current environment, there is a variable called cache-based underscore password, and it's set to my previous password value,
So,
which is what we want. Or
or
we could actually use Netlify as well. Oops.
again, there might be a
Netlify
built-in part
and
of Netlify that does this.
set cache-based password cache. Okay, so this thing should work if I remember correctly. And what it's going to do is configure all my Netlify environments to have this pre-configured.
Oh, so it's sort of
So
baked in, so it's just ready to go
yes, which means that when I'm going to push my code, I'm going to send everything to production as well, without my password.
without your password. So we're going to be safe. We're not going to be in trouble.
Hopefully, no. Set environment variable cache-based password in all contexts. So we are good to go. I've removed my password from the code. I've set up my
Everything.
environment.
Oh, I was going to say, hey, but we still want
And
the
now I'm
form
gonna
response to be broken down into self-write bits of data for
give
input, right?
form index
I'm just answering a question from
package.
Cesium while you do that because you're doing some boring
But we
safe
want to
stuff.
be broken down in several bits of
So
data.
Cesium is pointing, we may well, and we can do that kind of processing after the data lands. We can do it in JavaScript before it lands. It really depends how you'd like that data parsed, but there's a lot of different options. It's JSON, so we can break the JSON later on if we want to.
Pushing the code, saving my work. You never know what can happen. Come on, come on, come on. There it is.
I hate to say I
I've
was
only
right and you were
changed one
wrong,
of them, but ideally you would also change the other.
but you kept saying, oh, this is terrible. This is the worst. Everything. And I was insistent that everything
About
was
what?
fine. And it feels like I was right.
About what? Sorry.
Oh, about everything being fine,
Oh, everything's fine all the time.
right? Well, within the scope of experimenting with programming and learning, there's not stuff that can go too terribly wrong. The whole big wider world, I'm not going to say that's all fine.
It's all right. And now I think we're going to have another error, which is probably what we're going to talk about tomorrow or on Monday. Unless you want me to fix that error now, which I mean, we can go over
What suits you
5 more minutes
best.
maybe.
Yeah. If you hear a terrible sound, it's my cat in the window too excited because he can see a bird.
I did heard that. Okay, let's try our Netlify application. And is it going to work? I agree, singular buttercream is like the best work. Actually, it works. I'm surprised it's working, and I have doubts. Because in my mind, it was supposed to fail. How many
Okay,
documents do we have?
that's harder as a programmer, isn't it? Where you're like, obviously this will fail. It worked. Why did this work?
So it did not, which is somewhat good and somewhat wrong. Because you can see I still have only one document, so obviously something's wrong. But the problem is, apparently it worked because we got the message. It worked,
Yeah.
which is absolutely not what I was expecting. Maybe it wasn't deployed yet. Maybe I'm fooling
And
myself.
deploy means to like push that out into the world.
Yes. One function deployed, visit your functions. Hello world function. This is weird. I have so many questions right now.
Do we want to keep noodling on this or do you want to? Because we just had somebody in our forum saying, hey, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. And our teaching assistant, Vanced, I hope you don't mind me calling you up by name, sees him was saying, hey, do you know what I recommend? Is I recommend stopping, making a note of what was hanging you up, and then going away for a little while. So here, our build is failing. Do we want to tie this off and come back to it on Monday and spend 5 minutes fixing this and then the rest of it with me crying?
Actually, the thing is, the build worked. I was expecting.
Oh, it did. It worked.
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
What happened?
We're both making very weird sounds at each other, which is a common programming interaction, isn't it?
It is. What happened is, I probably still have some unpushed code, which would explain a lot of things.
And this is a super common
Git status
problem. So
doesn't exist.
so it says that we haven't added your node modules and we haven't added your hello world function. And that's got a lot of our really important JavaScript in it. Okay, so this is a
Exactly.
super common mistake to say, I'm going to run it, it works. Oh, I've got something I've changed and I've saved, but I haven't pushed it to GitHub.
Going back. Tuk, 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 tuk. You see my
Sorry, I love the,
expectation
like,
of
little
anything, which is the
programming sounds people make.
worst. Yeah. Like expecting something to fail doesn't fail is like the worst thing to do because you don't know what's going on. Literally, you have no idea. So it's
We're very different people. If something works and I expected it to not work, I just walk away from my computer. I've used the last of my luck. I do not need to cognitively understand what's happened. It's good. I'm out. And this is not very good for learners. I'm really modeling incorrect behavior here.
I wish we could. So we added the actual code. The code is published. Let's try it again. Do we have the document here? Yes, we do. It works.
And it works. And we know
All
why
right
it
to
works
go.
this time.
We are
So
ready
we
to log
saved
off.
it, we pushed it, we've hidden our passwords, not from the other learners. So you probably want to change that. No, the learners are so safe and chill. And what we'll do on Monday is we'll do this whole process over again, a little bit faster, a little bit slower because it's me. Laurent, you will get to relax and I will get to drive. And what we'll do is we'll do all of this, but without writing the JavaScript code. So I'm just going to copy and paste that over and just change what I need to. So it'll be the exact same thing. I'll have a real form that lives on the web, but it'll still work even if you don't feel comfortable with JavaScript. Fabulous. Shall I chat to you on Monday?
Absolutely. Chat to you on Monday. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you all so much.